going on, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's having a good week. Want to welcome you guys to Free Game. My name is David Butler. I'm the Director of Community Initiatives for the Whitaker Group, and we have an amazing conversation lined up for you guys today. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. As you know, we're going to be talking about Black representation within footwear, sneaker design. And we have some amazing experts here to talk with us and provide some perspective. And before we pass the floor off to them and introduce themselves, give a shout out to our everyday crew that's in here with us. That'll be on Clubhouse with us afterwards as well. If you got Clubhouse, go ahead and download the app, try and get your little invite. We're gonna have a Clubhouse room rolling after this, kind of open the floor up and have a little bit more of a free-flowing dialogue tonight. We want to make sure we give y'all some really good information while we have this amazing talent in front of y'all. But I do want to allow our monthly panel to go ahead and introduce themselves. So go ahead and kick it off with Mr. Whitner.
What's good, everybody? Thank you for everybody coming out, investing your time. I'm James Whitner, owner of the Whitaker Group.
Brother Dre.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Dre Hayes, 1/4 of the foundation.
Big bro, what you got?
This Antoine, 1/4 of the foundation, and I'm just here to tell James to get Obama to expunge my record.
Classic intros, always from Brother Hutch. Classic intros. Mr. Pell.
Yo, what's up? I'm the knuckle of the foundation, creative director.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And now for our guest of honor, folks who have carved out some time on their schedule to be with us today. Let's kick it off with Miss Thornhill. Go for it.
Hey everyone, I'm Sharice Thornhill. What can I say? I've been in the footwear design industry for 14 years now. It's kind of scary to actually say that number. But 14 years in, I spent a majority of my time at Nike. I'm working with Adidas now, and I lead the SEED program.
For sure. Mr. Williams, my brother.
What's going on? Appreciate y'all having me. My name's Bima. I host a podcast called Claiming Stories Podcast, and we just feature stories with BIPOC creatives from all different walks of life. Shout out to James to be on the upcoming season. I spent like the past decade working at brands like Saucony, Adidas, and most recently Nike until I made a pivot to tell these stories full time. So happy to be here with y'all tonight.
No, for sure. It's a blessing to be in the room with such a talented group, so much experience. So I want to kick off the convo with us talking about really purpose and goals and how that played into you guys getting into the industry. And how'd you go about defining your goals, I guess, starting with I guess from a career perspective, like how did you decide like, oh, footwear is the industry that I want to get into? And then once you, I guess as a second layer to that question, once you were in the industry, how did you start to decide what you were gonna go? How did you decide or quantify or how did you define your success once you actually got into the industry?
I'll kick off. So, I grew up playing basketball and loved all things, having to do with the sport, the culture. I remember in 5th grade, like seeing the Jordan 10s for the first time. And then that was it. I was like, oh, snap, what is that? The first time I saw the 10s, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. Like, I'm only 5'4", so I wasn't going to be making it to the WNBA. I figured out, hey, art and design was going to be my path to just continue to be part of the industry. And it wasn't until I got into high school where I discovered footwear design was actually a thing. And I grew up in South Florida, so I grew up in Miami, and there's the magnet program, which is basically, art schools that feed into each other. And I was part of that. And at my high school, they had industrial design, fashion, art, architecture, a bunch of other artistic fields. And I learned more about footwear design there, and actually just kind of followed the path and went to Detroit, studied industrial design at College for Creative Studies. met a bunch of people that was already in the industry. Dwayne Edwards, who most of you probably have heard of, he leads Pencil Academy. Met Dwayne when I was 21, and he really helped me get my foot into the industry at Nike, and then that was it. I went back out there, started off as an intern, went back out full time, and I pulled back the curtain, in the Wizard of Oz, and saw this little old white man like chugging away, and I was like, wow, this is what it is. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought when I got to Nike that my life was just going to magically just kind of fall into place. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm starting over. I'm learning what a corporation is, like what corporate life is like. What does that mean for me as a Black woman in footwear design? And I was actually only the second Black female footwear designer in the company's history. The first is my best friend. The third and the fourth were all women I went to college with and grew up with and went to high school with. So for us and for women of color, especially in footwear design, it's so, our collective is so small, and we're just trying to, open up more doors for more people to get in. And I think I moved through that organization and got to a point where I wasn't having the impact I wanted to, and primarily for my community. And so I left and I went back to South Florida and I started teaching. And I wanted to help create just more opportunities and educate, the next generation of designers who look like me, who wanted to be part of this industry. And about a year and a half ago, the Adidas team reached out and said, hey, we want to create a school within our organization for people who are overlooked, haven't been able to get their foot in the door any other way, but have tons of talent. And I moved to Brooklyn. I was like, all right, I'm coming up there and we're going to get this started. So basically, I moved through the organization and I moved through our industry, and I figured out that, hey, designing shoes wasn't going to be the thing that was going to be memorable for me. It wasn't going to be the thing that allowed me to really like fulfill my purpose. I don't think we need more products in the world. I think we need people who are actually going to help other people realize their dreams. And so that basically has become my purpose.
Incredible.
For sure. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when you start to think about it in a journey that way, I think, and I heard you, what were we going together? The NBA?
We were, yeah, we did a call with the NBA.
Yeah, we did a call with the NBA together, and me hearing that the first time was just kind of like, I mean, obviously working in it, you pull back and you're always surprised at the lack of representation in our industry. But every time I hear that story, it's still like the first time. But go ahead, Beeman. I know you about to jump in there and give me some color, brother. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm coming with the same energy. It's crazy though, but I grew up, down south Louisiana, and I've been loving sneakers my whole life. It was just the thing that I was destined to be. My mom bought me a pair of Chucks before I could walk, so I don't know. I guess she had it in her mind too. But if y'all know anything about the South, is that we get a lot of stuff late, man. Like we got sneaker shops late. We got everybody want to clown us on our fashion, the whole nine. So even the way I speak, people might say something about it, especially going into a corporate environment. But down there, the interesting thing was that I love this thing, and I loved it since I was 9. I love the sneakers, and I love the marketing and the storytelling behind it. The thing that was missing though was that only thing that I saw that were examples were like, go be a football player because LSU was right there, or go work at a chemical plant because that's what my folks did. And so we didn't really know anything outside of those kind of two directions. And I always joke with people and I say I had a better chance of being like Lil Wayne than I had being Dwayne Edwards, because, I could see, Lil Wayne, turn an album into something when he was 16. So it wasn't until I was late. So I didn't have any examples past retail. And thankfully, I had some people that were around that could give me glimpses. So some of you might know Sneaker Politics down there, down south, down in Lafayette and Baton Rouge and New Orleans. But 2006 is when we actually got that first like sneaker boutique out there. We had skate shops and stuff like that. So I knew about SB, but that's when we started to get some more of these stuff. And I started to learn a little bit more. Derek would have different energy coming in the shop and he would always look out. He was actually my reference for getting to Adidas. But it wasn't until I was like 24 that I actually met someone that worked in the industry outside of retail and outside of sales. And it opened up so much because I finally got to see all the different opportunities. So all I knew was like, I knew how to go buy a shoe, which is what I always talk about. I know how to go buy a shoe. I don't know how to, improve my lifestyle or take my creative talents and do something with it.
Yeah.
So I got recruited off the internet. I had started this blog completely irrelevant to sneakers about running, because that was my thing, and started this running community. And next thing you know, that's how I ended up getting to Saucony. And similar to what Sharice was saying, it was like, oh shit, this thing looks way different than what I thought it was. So I got recruited to come do global social media, moved to Boston from Louisiana. And
hold on for 1 second. When you say it didn't look what it was, what you thought it did, get out a little more color, brother.
Well, so here's,
let me let you back that off.
so Saucony is owned by Wolverine Worldwide, which is out of Michigan.
Yep.
And they own Sperry, they own Kids, they own all this. I get into this building, there's 400 people in this building. I'm 20. By the time I get hired, I'm 26. So it's my first gig in there.
Give us the walkthrough, the whole day one. I need the day one walkthrough. 26-year-old coming in. You pumped up. You got the new job. It's vibes. You got your Monday fit on. You come in. You gotta kill them. You got the Monday fit on. Now don't give me that.
Hey, look, yeah, he laid the clothes out the night before like it was the first day of school.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, I'm hyped on the opportunity. I don't even think about what I'm about to walk into. I just think I really got in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's 400 people in this office. I'm the only Black dude in this office. Everybody else also is mad older and hella conservative. And
what's mad older? We need to listen. We all talk, right? You gotta realize some people, this is their first experience. We walking in the building with you, man. I need that oh shit moment. We with you right now walking in the building. You said hella older. They 60 older, 40 older.
Everybody's 20 years on me. So I'm coming in there. Not only am I coming in there from the South and coming in the way I come in, on top of that, I have no way of like kind of resonating with people because we don't have none of the same experiences at all, plus age. And so it felt so isolating initially, just walking in. Like you just initially walked in and you feel like, what did I left home? Like I left everything I know, all my family, everything for sneakers.
Yeah.
And you get there and you're like,
yeah,
move back home.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna overcompensate. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna work harder than everybody else on that you could see in this building. And that's honestly what I did, because for me, the way I was looking at it was I had never, everybody will tell you from the South, we got a couple people on the call now that where I went, we never seen anybody there that looked like us, and we never saw anybody come back. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the people leave, but nobody comes back. They don't tell you nothing. And so, I get there and I bust my ass. I mean, the first year, I met Dion. I see Dion on the call now, but I was running through all the shops, out there. We took the social media from Saucony from 3,000 to 80,000 followers when I was doing social. I then went into influencer marketing. I then went into global collaborations on the product side. And I took that and parlayed it over to Adidas, where I work on Yeezy on the product marketing side. And then I took it to Nike Entertainment. And so for me, it was a similar experience each way. It got a little bit better, right? Because you're like, oh, when you went to Adi, it had to be different than Saucony, because you're like, well, Saucony is a running brand. So of course they got us over there. But when you get to Adidas, it was a little bit better. But when we got to the leadership levels, I was like, well, none of us are there making decisions. It's crazy. But we see us on the commercials, we see us in the collaborations, we see this pop.
Well, talk about was there any level of awareness at that time? Because what year are you talking about now?
When I got to Adi, it was 2017.
and you were at Adi after Saucony, correct? And I'm slowing you
I-
down. So
Yeah.
in 2017, was there any recognition or awareness around just the lack of representation or the impact
Hmm.
of having a lack of representation? And I'll ask both of you guys that same question, right? Because I think 2017 is like yesterday in our lives, right?
Right.
But the conversation around racial justice and inclusion has
Yeah.
gotten very important over the last year, right? So
For
talk about what was the thought process around that in 2017 and along both of your journeys.
James, that wasn't a conversation. That wasn't a conversation we were having on that campus at that time. And I could tell you when it started to shift though, is when the whole when your mans who was president a little while ago, I don't even need to say all that. Your mans that was president called him a son of a bitch when he was kneeling on the sidelines when Cap was kneeling. And so we felt multiple ways about that, the community on campus. And a couple of us actually organized taking a knee at the center of the pitch at Adi that ended up getting posted on Nice Kicks. And that was a whole conversation. That was information.
Yep.
But it didn't start sparking. I didn't really see it sparking until 2018.
Interesting.
Sharice, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I started at Nike. I started my first job it was 2006. I interned in 2007 full time, and people were aware of it, but no one was talking about it. It was definitely, under the carpet, And at Nike at that time, we had a lot more Black leaders at that time, and everyone just started to trickle off. You get to a certain point where you definitely hit a ceiling. You can't move. The organization is stacked. No one's moving. People are there for 20, 30 years. There's nowhere for you to grow. And, if you lack advocates, you can have one or two advocates. If they leave the company, then what happens, because there's just not enough of representation.
Well, Sharice, you just mentioned the key word in our industry, and I think there's at this point around 70 some people on the call.
Yeah.
What does an advocate mean in our business, and specifically for a Black woman in our business, right? With and I'll go even a step further, a Black woman in design in our business.
Yeah. So there's advocates and mentors. I think they're very different. Your mentor is a person who you feel like you can talk to. You probably engage with this person, a few times a month. They're maybe closer in age or closer in trajectory or path or roles. And they can be also a little bit older, but you can have more of a free flowing conversation with them. You can really trust them. You feel confident that you can be open with them and it's not going to be held against you. I think an advocate is someone different. An advocate is maybe a little bit further from you. You touch in with them maybe once a quarter, but they sit in the rooms that you'll never have access to.
Right.
They know your story. They know your path. You present what you've done to them, and they're your sounding board in those rooms that you're never going to get into. They may also be in rooms that your mentor isn't in as well. So it's very important to have those people on your side who are going to advocate for you, in places that you won't be in. They're invested in you and your growth. Yeah. The problem is they can leave tomorrow, and that's the thing. So it's really important to make sure you have an arsenal of advocates and in different places too, to make sure that, you're covered off, because people switch and change jobs often, or they get ousted or whatever. And we saw that happening when I was at Nike. There was just a time where people were just leaving, especially people of color, like just out, like an exodus.
No, I think it's very difficult for specifically right now for Black and brown folks in our industry, because it's like, on one hand, you want to stay and fight the fight, right?
Yeah.
And it's I'm 42. These grades popped up one day. I don't think it was grateful. It was just I woke up and them bitches. It was just like
right there, because
there's this fight, and some days it's hard, and I'm on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the struggle and that balance of, some people just want to look for greener pastures, but I think corporate America in and of itself is just America. I ain't gonna just put that on corporate
Yeah,
America.
it's America.
It's
You
America.
start to ask yourself, like, what am I fighting for, really?
Yeah.
You
Uh,
really start to ask yourself that.
Well, and then quickly, because let me level set the thought. I do. I'm not gonna say that I don't. And then the other James smacks the shit out of me. and then because the cat. Yeah, I'm about to go on a tangent. Let me just. I mean, the idea is I'm not letting them off that easy, right? Like me pulling out or me shutting up. That's the win, right? I'm not giving up that win. I can't. The fight is the fight.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, the thing about it is, James, you said it right. Is like, I just think Sharice and I were like, we got to figure out a different way to still go at the thing, because as you know, you can't play by the rules of the system that was set up before you got there.
Check. And the most important thing is this, and this is what I was getting to. Just because you leave doesn't mean the fight is over, right?
No, absolutely not. The mission is still the mission. You just find another vehicle, that's all.
Yes.
You know, you find another vehicle to get to where you're trying to get to, and then you align yourself with brands that identify with you and have the same values and other people.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, and don't get me wrong, this is the one thing I'll say. As a partner to tons of brands, I think people are actively looking to how to try to figure out being better, right? But the problem is there's systemic issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't fix a systemic issue with just a simple solution. It does not work that way, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say there's still huge gaping holes of underrepresentation, but the systemic solutions haven't been executed, or they haven't been executed well enough for change yet.
They haven't been done fast enough either for the change that we want to see, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to go from a system where all or majority of the leaders are white males to then see it become diverse and be comfortable with not being the one in charge anymore.
Well, the catch is this, you know what I always said, meeting? I got to live uncomfortable every day. So, zero fucks given to someone else's discomfort. Spade's a spade, right? Like, and listen, respectfully, right? There's ways to tear down walls, and everybody got to understand their privilege, because even now I live in Black privilege, right? I can't act like I'm in the projects no more. I mean, the struggle mentally is still the same, but I'm not there anymore, right? But you know, Dave, I'm about to go on a tangent.
Yeah. Hey, look,
I'm jacking our itinerary, brother. I'm jacking it. That's why I let you skate me out. But this is the last thing I will say though, because I think both of you guys have, well, gal and guy, and being politically correct these days, left corporate America. Or no, Sharice, you're now back with Adi, right?
I am actually, so I have my own design consultancy and I'm contracting with them. So to the point we had earlier in terms of the mission is still the mission. You just have to identify, can I affect it inside, or can I pivot out, create my own thing, and then position myself to come back and affect the change, but from the outside.
Well, talk to me about that. That was a loaded question. I knew the answer, but we needed talk to me some about, and Beamer, you too, right? Because we spoke. I think you were one of my favorite. I can't believe that was a pre-interview.
Oh, I know. I wanted to record the whole thing.
that should have been the interview, because it was so good. But both of you guys have managed to leave, and once again, this is not about bashing the institution of corporate America, right? Because we can't exist without each other, right? The institutions are the institutions. Mm-hmm. It's about expediting systemic change in the institutions, so it's inclusive of folks who look like us, men and women, and listen, much more women, because even I start to look up now, like, damn, where's the sisters at?
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, please, both of you guys, talk about your work, where you are now. Dave, am I messing this up? Is this supposed to come later?
We had a few questions in the chat, So like let's push that to a little bit. We had a few questions in the chat. We got a few people that are interested in design that want to address some of their and being able to alternative forms of education, different ways they can pick up various skills or create their own thing, right? Like you talked about being in and out and creating your own thing. So let's talk about just kind of alternative forms of education, alternative opportunities. Let's talk about that a little bit and what you guys view. You know, everybody talks about like YouTube University right now, that whole type of thing. So like, what are you guys' thoughts? We'll start with Sharice on just thoughts of alternative forms of education and creating your own opportunities within the space.
Before that, I would say identify like why you want to be in our industry. Like, why do you want to be a designer? Like, what is the purpose behind it? And Dave, like we talked about this in our pre-call, right? Like, you got to go in with some direction. Like, there's so much that you can learn, and we don't have the time to just like be on YouTube all day or, take a million classes at Yellow Brick. Like there's so many, there's just so much access to information, right? And I think especially now, like we're on information overload. So to really like streamline your process and all the things that you're going to learn, like think about who do you want to be in our industry? Like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to serve? Where are the holes and the gaps in our industry? Because we really don't need more product. And I said that before, but product is a way to make change and bring change about. So I'd say like, what's your why? What is the uniqueness that you're going to bring to our industry that is intrinsic to you and the things that you care about and your purpose? And I'd say from there on, there are so many places that you can go to get educated. And then also like, just try stuff. I would just be creating things, post them on Instagram. I know tons of people that have never gone to school and got hired just from their IG, so there's so many of those stories, but I think it goes back to what I was saying before, like, what's your unique point of view? And brands, I mean, at this point, there's so many people, so many designers out there, they're looking for something different, something unique. They're not looking for another Yeezy designer.
Yeah.
No more Yeezys. Like, we don't want to see that. We want to see something new, someone bringing a new perspective, who's trying some stuff at home, stitching up pullovers or whatever at home, like just trying stuff and being exploratory.
Question: what's the difference between a color up and a design?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Trying to start trouble.
Listen. It's and I had to move for a second to make sure I put, because people like, let me not lead the witness. What's the difference? What's the difference between a color up and a design? And then we can start getting into the mix with that just a little bit.
So color up or colorway is basically telling a story on an existing product, where you can take the Jordan 1 and you can spin it in a million different colorways, combinations of colors, different color stories, different color palettes with different materials. Footwear design is the functionality of the product. What is it meant to do? Traction patterns, making you perform better, cushioning systems, upper patterns, things that are gonna be more comfortable. It's all about like the functionality of the products. And then colorways is just like the aesthetics of it, the way the color and materials come to life.
Right. And Sharice, you would say that the product design side is way longer lead time than color up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you can do a colorway, 6 months, even shorter. You're designing like a shoe ground up. It's probably like an 18-month process, 15 months minimum.
Gotcha.
But the spaces, if we talk about the demographics in those groups, I would go out to like factories, or I would go meet people and they're like, oh, you do color and materials? I'm like, nah, I design the footwear.
Well, let me get in there.
Yeah.
Talk about the kind of designer you need to be trained in to be a designer versus color up, because anybody can do a color up. Anybody who understands color, style, can do materials, color ups. Talk about the difference in education that it takes to get there. Just because, a lot of things can be done, but when you start talking about like different kinds of design, like, let's dig in there a little bit. Just a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So like I said before, I went to college for creative studies. I have a BFA, so Bachelor's in Fine Art in Industrial Design. So industrial design is any type of consumer hard goods, soft goods. It could be sneakers. It could be furniture. It could be cell phones, blenders, all those things. But it's really rooted in the function of the product and how it's meant to benefit the user and their life. So understanding like the human body, understanding biomechanics, how the body moves, and designing products for the body in motion. So it's all of those things, and it is something that you really have to like have a love for, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of understanding. If you're a person that you want to take your car apart and you want to see how it works, or if you're constantly kind of tinkering things, trying to understand how things work, like maybe that's the job for you. If you're someone who's very much like into the color and like the materials and like snake skins and like all of those things, and you want to be able to like transform how a product looks, then maybe color materials is your thing. But they're very different, but those people are on the same team. They work together.
Right. And I want to jump in there and say, you know, color materials also, it's not the easiest thing, because there's a lot of people that put some bad colorways and materials on some shoes.
True. You can get away with a lot more today though than back in the day.
Yeah, because so much. I mean, there's so many SKUs, right? Then back then, your judgment was like, it was way easier to see stuff that maybe wasn't good. Whereas today is like we get 20, 30 new sneakers in an hour.
Yeah, it's constant, and then those are the ones that are actually releasing. Those aren't the mock-ups of what someone wants to release. If you're just looking at product out there,
right?
Yeah, it's so much out there. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Oh, go for it.
This is for Sharice. Like, what programs are you actually designing in, to give a little more breadth to the design aspect of being a footwear designer? Like for clothing, we're primarily working in Illustrator and Photoshop.
Yeah.
And we may, go to some web PLM, or now people are getting into 3D, like Clothes 3D. Like what are the staple tools of the trade in footwear design for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say like textbook, pen and paper, just I'm a purist.
You know how G that was right there? That was
my
move right there.
Get my ideas out. No, I mean, I think, and that's the thing I always try to balance, like, especially with our designers, like, you don't need all of those tools to come up with an idea. Because sometimes we can have all those tools and we still can't generate a great idea. So it's really like, you can have an awesome concept and you sketch it on a napkin, you can send that to the factory. So I just want to kind of level set that it's not necessarily about the tools. It's about like generating the thought process and understanding consumers and business and why certain products work the way they do and why they service that need. So that's like the first piece of it. And then when we get into programs, like we use Illustrator primarily, and then there are other tools like Gravity Sketch, which we're using in like the Oculus, like the Gravity Sketch, like VR headsets now. So you can actually be in a virtual space, and you have your hand, you're actually sketching in 3D. Like you can jump inside the suit and draw around yourself. So those are some tools that people are using now. There are other tools where you have the actual foot form, the last in 3D space, and you can draw on and extrude that. Shoemaker is what it's called. So there are a lot of different tools that people are using, but ultimately it kind of comes back to Illustrator and like 2D, blueprint drawings that you're sending over to the factory. People stitch their own uppers, cut their own patterns, stitch their own uppers together and send that over to the factory. So I think it comes back to being able to use your hands and create your own prototypes. And that's always like the best thing to be able to send over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sharice, I'm gonna link up with you because you pulled out your black book. So I'm gonna link with you with my black book. Me and you gonna have to battle.
No, pull yours out. Let's see.
Nah, I'm fucking around.
No.
I'm out and about.
Man, she flashed on all y'all. Everybody went.
I know.
And a lot of heads dropped.
Yo, Jay, she pulled out the quick
Yo.
whammy.
Just in case y'all thought she was joking with y'all, she pulled a tool out on y'all.
Hey,
what y'all want to do.
No, honestly, not for nothing. I think that is the best tool, because it comes down to ideation and how quickly you can do that. And even for me, like sketching clothing, the quickest way is pen and paper.
Mhm.
And then you bring it to Illustrator and all this other fancy shit. But if you can't jot it down, whatever your means is, if you can't jot it down and articulate it and explain it to somebody,
Yeah.
then you don't really have a design.
Yeah, I mean, and you can, I mean, Sharice will tell you when you're at the factory, like you got to move with speed, and a lot of times that's going to come down to just the normal tools that we use, normal communication. I mean, literally, I did an interview with Nate Job, who's creative director over at Nike, worked on the Virgil 10. They were literally working by hand, sending text messages, drawing on the phone their fingers to try to call out sections. So it gets, you're in the process, it gets really kind of granular, and it moves away from some of those tools that are out there. So don't get too caught.
No, and also like a lot of people get caught up on renderings and like lens flares and Photoshop and all that stuff. And honestly, when you have a shoot, no one like gives a shit about your rendering. Honestly, like it's not going on a shelf, So that's also something that I talk to my team a lot about, because they get really caught up on what other people can do in their sketching styles, and they think that that's actually like the design of the product, and it's not. That's just a way to express your concept, but people only care about the concept,
Yep.
And when the samples come back, no one cares about your sketch. So it's just like get in there, cut materials, make things with your hands, because that's what's going to sell, especially in the marketing.
Right.
No offense to marketing people, but the sketches, y'all don't really understand that stuff, right? So it's just like when the shoot come in, that's all you really care about.
Beamer, she just shot you down, bro.
I'm just saying, like, marketing folks, like y'all care about the shoe, right? So when the shoe comes in, it's either hot or it's not. So.
Like the shoes, right? Like that's also, you could run into an issue where you could create this render, but you can't make that as a shoe.
And you get the pullover back and they're like, wait, what is this? Did we sign off on that?
Hold on, see when you use these terms, you're going
Randall's laughing because he knows.
What's a pullover for people who don't understand?
Yeah, so the pullover is basically like the first prototype that you get back from the factory. It looks like crap. There's nothing attached, there's no bottom. It's basically a sock. It maybe has shape, maybe it doesn't. It's in random materials that they found at the factory. It looks crazy. But you got to be able to see through it. That's all.
Just got a really good question in the chat. It says from Jordan Shelby, it says, how important is lived experience and other creative outlets and mediums when you're going into like your ideation phase? And how important truly is the concept when designing footwear?
Ema, you want to take this one?
I mean, one, shout out to Jordan. That's a great question, young Jordan. Give me that. Let me get that first one once more. The first part of that question.
He asked about like lived experience, like how important is it, or how does that play a role when you're in the ideation phase, when you're trying to develop the concept? What's that? How does your lived experience play into that?
I mean, it plays into it heavy, right? Like I think a lot of times when you're coming up with, for me, from a storytelling standpoint on the marketing side, obviously you want to be connected with your counterparts in design, but it's also that experiences that you've had are what you leverage to try to tell the story. You can't come up with that just the day of. It has to be things that you've seen, that you've lived. So a lot of times you want to be able to travel and go into markets. You want to be able to study film and study different creative industries. You want to spend time speaking to different creatives, whether it be designers or architects or chefs or filmmakers, because all of those different things help you become better at working with your counterparts to tell the story or come up with these concepts, especially knowing that we're in a competitive field where everyone at this stage, everyone damn near knows how to make a really good sneaker. The people that excel are the people that can then figure out how to turn those into emotional stories that we can resonate to, that may have helped us get through something or going to help us get through something. And so for me, it's always been about what is the previous experiences that we've had? What are the stories that we know, the narratives that we want to tell in order to be able to bring something to life? Because we've all seen something come to market that had no soul to it. We've all seen it, and you all know what it looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd say I echo that sentiment. I mean, traveling, as much as you can is a great way to just understand diversity, different types of people, different cultures, and just to have more to pull from, and just adding more tools to your toolbox. Some people can't travel, and I love books, as you can see, is a bunch behind me. Like when you can't travel, I think jumping into a book is a great way to just escape and learn new things, and thought process. And I think as a designer, it's important to be able to read different things, because pictures aren't always going to get you to a new place. It's just like the thought, like you need something to jog your mind and your thought so that you can produce something different.
Yeah.
That's dope. I got a follow-up question for that from somebody I saw in the chat earlier. I can't find it to give them credit for the question, but they asked, especially knowing that design and art and all of these things come from your lived experience, they're asking, how do you protect yourself and your creativity? If you are posting things on the internet, or if you are, trying to work with bigger brands, or maybe you're inside of, a bigger brand or a company, like how do you protect your ideas and your creativity from getting sucked up into the machine, or getting used without you getting credit for it, I guess, to a certain degree?
Yeah, I mean, one, you got to know that when you're working at these brands, you sign, when you sign and on that laptop, specifically against the field that you're in. So, if you're a marketer and you're telling stories, like they have the right to determine what ideas that are theirs versus, what you might perceive is yours. So you need to have a conscious, maybe offense already about what you're going to keep for you and what you're going to share with the brand. Just because you work with them or work at this place doesn't mean that they own your intellectual IP. And that also goes into boundaries and also on, having your identity outside of work, because it's so easy to get wrapped up into, we call it sipping the Kool-Aid. It's so easy to just be absorbed in the identity of this place that you're at. And you'll wake up one day and life will go by and you're like, yo, what now? What am I? Who am I? And it's so important. I always advocate, if anybody I've mentored, anyone that's spoken to me, I always advocate, please have something going on in your life outside of work. One, it'll make work better. Two, it'll make you a better person because you're not just wrapped up in this one thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I hear that question so much from people who are just afraid to share their work because they think someone's going to take it, like share, like give stuff away. Because I think the best work we're going to create has yet to be created. So like, if you feel like, man, this is the only good idea I got, I can't give it up, then you're not working enough. Like, really, like
that's a bar right there.
What you created most likely has already been created.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, give it away, like get feedback, share, like try to get better. That's a big piece.
And talk about, both of you guys, talk about the importance of working on a team, because I think that's the part that's missed. Like, this is not an individual game.
Yeah.
Like even on our side, like James Whitaker and the Whitaker group is a team. James helps lead a team, but there's a team. Talk about being able to work with a team and in different roles on a team. And when you were coming in, and you were junior, and at some point when you were, at the top.
And when y'all get through that, I have a follow-up about independence and building teams. So start with James's question, and then we'll circle back to the question I have for you.
Sure. I don't think I learned the value of team until I got into an organization. I think when I was in college, especially in design school, it's all about you. It's all about your portfolio, the individual. I mean, I was in class with people who were sketching like this, like they don't want you to see what they're sketching, and no one had the concept of, man, we should work together because our products would be better and we can win together. And none of that was happening in college at all. People just never wanted to work together, have group projects. And then when I got into the industry, I discovered that this is a whole machine. Even on the shoe, each shoe has a triad, has a designer, a marketing person, and a developer. So you get your brief from your marketing partners, you're designing the shoe as a designer, you're handing it off to your developer. So you have to understand the marketing person's goals. You have to understand the goals of your developer, because they're either going to be an advocate for the project or stick in the process too. So you all have to work together, and then you win together, really. Yep. There's no one in an organization working solo.
100%. Very well said.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, James, it's just like, it's also knowing your strengths and weaknesses and being honest with yourself. Like, you're going to have things that you're really great at, and you're going to have things that you're not so great at. But you got to be honest with yourself to do that. You got to really take the ego kind of out of that conversation, especially depending on what your agenda is. You know, if your agenda is just to get something done, then yeah, by all means, do it by yourself. If your agenda is to get something done that's great, that's going to mean something to people, then you likely want to make sure you have feedback. You want to make sure you're aware of where you come up short, so that, you know, your counterparts have those strengths, so that you guys can go further. Because otherwise, you know, you do a disservice to yourself. But to me, teamwork has always been critical. It's like all the sports references you can think of, right? You know, Jordan and the Bulls, like, there's no championships if you're not playing with, you know, the rest of the squad. It doesn't happen.
MJ's the first one to say there ain't no, he won 6 rings. Scotty was there for every last one of them, right? Like, you can't, the idea of doing it alone doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Cool, coach.
Talk about like building your teams. Like, if you're doing something independently, you're not necessarily assigned, or there's not like the infrastructure or workflow, and you're starting something on your own, and you're designing something on your own. That could be a t-shirt, could be a hat, could be a clothing brand, could be a sneaker company at this point. Talk about, you know, finding those people. And I know, like, Bimmy, you work with someone who you would consider a friend and a partner, you know what I'm saying, and BJ. So, like, what's it like managing those dynamics, friends versus team members and all that kind of stuff too?
Yeah, so I, you know, kind of tying back on what I was talking about. So some of you may know, some of you may not know. So I have a podcast. It's called Claim of Stories. March 2nd, we're coming back with Melody Asani. But a podcast, you know, there's different types of podcasts. Our podcast is like, it requires a lot of teamwork. It requires a lot of different people to be involved. And with projects that I do, I tend to identify very quickly what I know I can do, and what also I think another part is what you enjoy. And I think sometimes people miss that. There's stuff that you enjoy that's a part of the project, and there's stuff that you don't enjoy. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That just means that maybe you know somebody, or maybe you could find someone that's more passionate about that piece than you are. For example, I'm not passionate about sales. So I might not be the person you want to try to go talk to sell people on something. I like to be on the other side, the artful side of things. So, but the first thing is understanding what you're trying to do. The first thing I always tell folks, before you try to go recruit anybody to try to come help you to do anything, you need to clearly be able to articulate what you're trying to do. And when I say clearly, I don't mean in like 10, 20 sentences. I mean in like a sentence. You know, I'm trying to start a podcast about this, or I want to design a sneaker that's going to help me run, 9.1 seconds down, a 100-meter dash. Because so people got a lot of stuff going on. They got a lot of things happening in their head. There's other stuff happening. They don't have time to be sitting there trying to figure out what you're going to decipher. So be quick about it. The next thing I would say is figure out how you need their help, and don't just, be skillful in whom you're looking for help for. If Sharice is great at performance design, I'm not going to go ask her to design a lifestyle shoe. That's one, that's not her passion. Two, that's not her skill set. If she's a performance designer, then I need to be trying to, do performance with her, right? Mm-hmm. So those are really like the two things that I tend to focus on, and maybe a timeline, because we all know if you don't have a timeline attached, 9 times out of 10, them projects go from wanting something in 2 weeks to 2 months to 6 months.
Yeah, I'll say networking is very important. I would say referrals are even more important. Like, go out to your network and actually work with people who have other people who can vouch for them. Especially if you're going to be like putting your own money on the line and funding your business yourself, you want to make sure that you're working with like reputable people, which is why it's so important to network and meet other people. Ask your friends in your network who they know, getting on LinkedIn. Because I mean, there's been so many stories of people who have gotten jobs on LinkedIn, who've gotten referrals from other people. Other brands have reached out to them. It turned into a business opportunity. So you have to be out like in the world, connecting with people, because you never know what skills other people have and who they know who can really help you in your business. So it can't happen in the
I
back.
think
Yeah.
that's one of the craziest things that I heard. Like I remember listening to Salehi's Business of Hype
Yeah.
episode, and he literally talks about how he got the Versace opportunity,
Yeah.
like sitting on the toilet, sending a message on LinkedIn to somebody who's like, yo, I think this could work for the brand. And they were like, yo, dope. And
It's
you
the
know,
whole
it turned
idea.
into a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I got what was it? I set up a call with the former CMO of Facebook through LinkedIn. That was this summer. I just chopped it up with the co-founder of WeWork. That was last week. Like all this is LinkedIn. If y'all ain't using LinkedIn, my goodness.
No, it's crazy how strong of a tool it is. But I think networking just in general, and I think LinkedIn is one of many tools, but it's just about intent, right? I think the important thing what both of you are saying is, and even in Salehi's story, like it's just using that tool to get to the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So it's more about what you said before. You each knew what you were looking for. So when you're going into Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, you're going in and you're going from here and it's taking you to here. You're like, hold up, I know this person. They connect me to this person. And then voila, you get a text back and you having a conversation.
Yeah. And also, James, knowing what you're looking for, I also want to take a step back because I know some folks might not know what they're looking for yet. And I think what I would say to you is experiment. I think Sharice kind of shared a little bit of that as well, whether it's books or traveling. Like when you don't know, that's a great place to be because you don't have an agenda, which means you can try a lot of different things. And I would just encourage you to try as many different things. And you're always going to do that. Like I find like I'm always still trying things because it somehow trickles back to the work.
Well, the catch is this: the second you stop growing, you start dying, right?
Yeah.
So I think that goes back to when you don't have perspective, you have to live to get it, right? A lot of people say, I think I've read a million times, everybody has one good book in them. Usually a new artist's first album is his best album, right? Because you got it all bottled up to this one body of work, but you still have to go continue to live to get the perspective, which helps guide your journey. And then you personally start adding your secret sauce onto it. And that's what makes it unique and special.
Absolutely. And there are so many tools out there. Like if you don't know what you're passionate about, if you don't know what you're good at, what you like, there's so many tools and assessments out there to just at least plant a seed, like the Strengths Finders assessment. I love that. I keep telling everybody about that book. It's like $20. You can get the code for free. It's by Gallup. Take the assessment. It gives you your top 5 strengths and you learn more about what you're good at, the things that you enjoy doing, the things that give you energy. And I think that's just a great place to start just to get the wheels turning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, drill in on that a little bit. Talk about how learning about yourself and your self-awareness can allow you to differentiate yourself and your ideas, whether you're inside an organization or looking to stand out independently.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have to dive deeper into like who we are. And I think when we're meeting with people, that's what they want to know. They want to know who you are, what you believe in, what you hope to do and accomplish, and what have you already done. So if you know yourself really well and you use all of those tools to learn more about yourself, it's easier to articulate to Bima's point, like in a short sentence, who you are, what you want to do. If you know yourself, and we just have to do the work, to be able to know more about ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it also helps, when you're working on a team, like me in particular, I'm not great with details. My team's aware of that, which is why we have folks on the team that are great with details. I love big ideas. I'm like, yo, let's do this. And somebody be like, you need to do this, and this to get that done. But my personality type is like, okay, I don't care. Well, we'll figure that stuff out. I want to do those things, but you need to understand that about yourself, because if not, you'll put yourself in a situation where you might not perform your best. And you might, in corporate environments, you might get these reviews that you don't necessarily align with because you feel like you're doing this. But in a certain role, if you agree to go into a certain role, they might be expecting you to be detail oriented. They might be expecting you to be good at Excel and whatever some of these things are. Whereas you might be more this other side, you might be better at, design. You might be better at storytelling or some of these other things. So you do yourself best if you can be able to tell other people what you're good at too.
Sure. And what can help you identify what you're good at or what you like is like understanding what you don't like. Like checking stuff off the list. Like it ain't this, it ain't that. So it's like once you start getting stuff off the list, then you can start to get to what it actually is. And then also like what's the thing that keeps you up at night? Like what is that problem that bothers you so much that you get on the soapbox for? For me, it's education, because I think like at this point and where we are today, like no one should be ignorant because there's so much access to so much information. And so I'll get on a soapbox about education at any point. And that's like my thing that I've identified because it bothers me so much.
Yeah.
So like, what's the thing that really bothers you? And maybe you're meant to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Can you guys talk a little bit about being the master of something versus a jack of all trades, and the power in both, right? Because and I'm not going to lead the witness. I'm just going to leave it there.
Generalist.
Hey man, you getting good at this. You getting good at this interview thing, James.
Because that's because Beamer stretched me. Listen, if you would have heard the interview call that me and him had, we had an incredible call. So I'm just getting him back right now.
The magic happened twice. I think being a jack of all trades, I think there is a positive to it. And what I think of that is that it gives you perspective into a lot of different walks of life and a lot of different people that you might work with, which is sometimes why it's great that even though you might not be interested in a certain thing, like for example, I might not be interested in sales, but if you ever worked on a retail floor, it's a great way to understand, a lot of different parts of the business. And I might not be a great designer like Sharice, but it's great if I can like dabble so I can understand if I go to talk to Sharice about, why we can't put this pattern down. And she's like, Beamer, it doesn't work that way. I understand it because I've kind of tried to experiment and I've been that way. But also sometimes being a jack of all trades leads to opportunity. So I'll share an example in that. When I was at Saucony was a significantly smaller company than anywhere I've ever worked, which means that because it was a small company, there were opportunities that would pop up. And sometimes people just weren't hungry, so they wouldn't jump up on them and they just, clock in, punch out, go home. Well, me, I'm like, that's actually how I got into the product marketing side. So I came in doing social media. And there was another cat named Mike that was there. He was the only PLM. He was, older in his career, and he was trying to do these collaborations. And he was trying to color up CADs. He was trying to talk to accounts, all this stuff, and trying to do social media. Like he didn't have any help. And I would just hang around and be like, "Yo, Mike, what do you need?" He's like, "I actually need to color up some sneakers." And outside of the interest from a sneakerhead standpoint, I didn't know how to do that. But you tell me, anybody on this call that loves sneakers wouldn't jump at trying to color up a sneaker. You probably would. I learned Illustrator doing that, and if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to then grow my career into product marketing. And then Mike's like, "Oh, well, you can maybe help me with these global collaborations." Next thing you know, I'm, helping, Packer out with the Snow Beach joints that we did when I was there. And so I think being a jack of all trades can lead to opportunity, but everything happens in balance. You also got to realize being a jack of all trades can stretch you. And that stretching you is where you lead to burnout. And you have to be aware.
And back up one thing, not just burnout, but the inability to get really good at something because you don't drill in and focus on what your secret sauce could and should be.
Right. And you end up getting stuck at a certain level. Mm-hmm. And your perception, also what happens when you're working with other people, the perception will be that, oh, well, he could do that. He could do that. But we don't really see him in like a leadership role. Right. That's not really the skill set. So you have to be careful when you're doing those things of the perception of other people, because you want to be known for something, one thing, and be able to excel at that one thing really, really well. And I had to learn that very early on in my career, thinking that if I did all these different things, it would get me somewhere. But instead of going up, you just go left and right.
Very well said. Sharice, you got something there?
Yeah. On Mastery, I got another book for y'all, Mastery by Robert Greene. He says it's 30,000 hours to mastery. So for me, like I always love footwear, and I think it's easier, and I was blessed to find a passion, and I think that's absolutely a blessing because a lot of people don't have that thing that they are willing to do the hard work to become a master at. So for me, I think when you find that thing, think of it as a blessing and really try to like go as deep and as far as you can with it. And being a master at something, it creates more opportunities. It opens doors for you. It creates spaces for you to teach and teach other people because you've learned so much that you now have so much to then give and pass on. And then to Bima's point, like you become known for that thing and people will seek you out. Like people will be on LinkedIn just hitting you up like, hey, can you come speak at this event? Because we've seen you become a master at XYZ. You know, can you come to our school? Can you get on this MBA call with us? Or, hey, what do you think about this job? We have this job that just opened up. So you get to a point where you're no longer looking for work, but work is looking for you because you become a master in that space. And that I think that's a great place to be, you know, because stuff is just coming to you.
Yeah.
And I'll add one more thing on it. Once you master one thing, some of the other things then begin to fall in place. Right? You master.
That's a good point.
You master retail. When you master retail, you master storytelling, and you master connection. You master branding. You start to master all these other things because to be good at one thing, usually you're doing several of those other things which help you master that one thing, then start to layer in those others. Right. So when you look at a basketball player, like we're gonna use MJ because we always use MJ, right? You look at MJ, you know, first it was getting to the hoop in athleticism, then it was the fadeaway, right? And it's lockdown defense, and it's all those things that just level you up to make you
right
an actual GOAT.
For sure.
For sure. So we're gonna get ready to wrap it up here and head over to Clubhouse. If you don't have Clubhouse, go ahead and download the app. See if you can get an invite to hop on the app so we can continue the conversation over there. Be a little bit more free flowing. We'll bring some people on stage, ask some questions yourselves. Thank you to everybody who's been contributing in the chat. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody's question, but that's what we want to use that Clubhouse opportunity for as well, so you guys can get some additional FaceTime. Sharice and Bima will join us over there for a little bit as well. So feel free to download the Clubhouse app and jump on with us over there. But I do want to end. We can go to where James was trying to take us in the middle. But where are you guys at in your careers now? Where are we headed? What are we working on? Where can they find you? All of those things. A traditional closeout for folks.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm running my own design consultancy right now, and to James's point, I feel like I've gotten to a certain point within footwear, and now I'm layering in education and becoming a master at education and facilitation and teaching and creating curriculums. Because now I feel like, okay, I've gotten to a certain point in footwear design, and now I want to be able to teach other people and create open doors for other people. So I am in the process of going to the next level, next stage in my career, and layering in those other things that are just going to help me be more effective in my role and what I want to do.
Yeah. So similar to Sharice, I'm also now out of the industry doing my own thing. I have a podcast called Claim a Stories, and we literally, my job is like the thing that I discovered was the thing I love doing most, which is actually connecting with people. I always was the social cat at the office that I'd rather just go have a coffee and talk through a project. And so I myself and a large team, my co-founder, BJ Fregoso, and our other partner, Adrian Anaya, we record interviews with folks like James, Melody Asani, and we talk about how they went from where they started to where they are today, to provide some sort of roadmap to you or ideation to you, and inspiration for where you might want to go with your career. And so you can catch it on Apple Podcasts. It's Claim a Stories with Bima. Check us out.
And listen, both of them are doing an extremely amazing job at what they're doing. Obviously, sitting in my role as interviewer today. and getting a chance and understand who they both are. If you get a second, man, please look at what Sharice is doing on a consultancy side and just helping Black women in design. And her voice has been like consistent, and it's something that it's a warm spot for me. And like I said, the idea of Black women specifically in design was something that I had to sit and say, hold up.
Mhm.
Even I'm in a damn room and I walk in and there's definitely not no Black men. So the Black women is like damn near extinct in design.
Right.
So like we have to change that. And Bima is one of the best storytellers and funniest fun. Like he gets the stories out of you. You're going to hear different things. Even if you've heard interviews by me or any of the other people he mentioned, he's getting a different part out of you. I've had one of my funnest interviews with him thus far. I'm really looking forward to the world getting a chance to hear it.
I can't wait. This is gonna be, it's gonna be great. But yeah, end of the day, like we appreciate y'all, and we could chop it up, some more. I could talk all day, honestly.
Man, Clubhouse it is, man. We gonna go to Clubhouse, get a little more Dave.
Yeah, if you haven't,
something I'm not supposed to say.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any issues, or if you need to find the Clubhouse room, just hop over to Be Social's Instagram. Check out the names on the flyer. If you follow any of those people on Clubhouse, the room will pop up on your hallway. And yeah, we're gonna head over there. Thank you guys for coming out. We're looking forward to it. We'll have another free game call in March. Be on the lookout for that information. Follow Be Social, please. All of the Whitaker Group accounts. At the social status, Man Here USA, APB Store, Prosper, Let Us Prosper. We'll be over on Clubhouse checking it out. Thank you guys for coming out. Let's get over to the after party.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
you guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.